Rabbi Lau, I just wanted to introduce you to Sam Harris. Who is a
Czestochowa survivor as a child with you. When you gave your famous speech, I was there. I just spoke about it.
Where are you?
I'm from Demblin, Poland.
From where?
Demblin, Poland.
Demblin.
Yes, my father was a Soifer. My name was not Harris, it was Jason.
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 And in which camp we were together?
We were in Czestochowa.
Czestochowa.
And Bartenschlager.
Bartenschlager was the officer,
Yes,
the Gestapo.
and he tried to kill me and he tried to kill you. And you gave that very famous speech. The best speech of your life.
Not the best, but the first.
Well, the best is yet to be tonight. But I can say that I was there. Maybe I was just saying, I just spoke a few minutes ago and I said that I was there when you gave the speech, maybe 100 yards away, hiding under the lice blankets and all of that stuff. That I was right near you when you gave that speech.
What
I was
age
9 years old.
You were 9 years old.
I was born in 35.
I was 7.5. I was born in 37.
37, yes. And the speech you gave was November 26, 1940. November 26, 1944. And you and I, you were a little more misfortunate than me because you went on from there to another concentration camp. And I was lined up by the wall to be taken away, but the Russians came so fast that we were liberated.
In Czestochowa?
Yes, the 16th.
So I was luckier than you?
No, did I say that? You went to another Jewish camp. I was luckier than you.
I don't wish anyone 1 hour in Buchenwald.
And anyway, I was there with you in Czestochowa, and you were right.
You told them what was my speech?
No, I wanted you to say it. No. Very nice to meet you.
Harris?
Sam Harris.
Sam.
Was formerly Zheznik, and I'm coming to
Sam
the
Shmuel?
Shmuel Shlomo.
We came from Piotrków Trybunalski, my brother and myself, to Czestochowa. It was a labor camp in the middle of Poland. There were 5 factories of glass there, of weapons. Hasak, Czestochowianka, Warta. They came Buchenwald, with the name, the high officer of the Gestapo, a new one. The first one, when we arrived, was softer. The new one was cruel, a brutal guy. He assembled all the children. How many children were there?
I don't know if I was thinking there were 5 of us and they wanted to kill us.
Very few. And there was a Jewish translator. He spoke German, and one of the Jews of the camp spoke to us Polish, translated the words of Buchenwald. I don't want to repeat a word I will never forget, even I was only 7.5. How he expressed himself about the children who are not productive, not useful, and we waste bread from the German army for you, and you don't deserve this bread. I didn't ask him to give me bread. If he would leave me at home with my father and my mother, I wouldn't ask from him bread. They brought us to Czestochowa. We are not productive. So I don't need you, and we must get rid of you immediately. These were the words, but uglier. I don't want to repeat. Do you remember?
Oh, yes. I'm older than you.
So, while he was speaking, even before the translation to Polish, the one who understands Yiddish understands a little bit, at least the tune of the German language, what he said. While he was speaking, and the Jewish one translated him.
Rosenblum, Rosenzweig, what was his name?
Rosenzweig.
Ah, okay.
Rosenblum was Rosenzweig, I think. With one foot and with the other foot, and I thought that he is not looking at me. I stood in front of him. We were very few children. I made a little bit a hill of stones and earth, and I thought that if I will stand on that hill, I will be taller. And if I am taller, I can impress him that I am productive, that I can work, and I deserve the 150 grams bread a day. And I made a hill and stood up on that hill. And I don't know how, but the Almighty put words in my mouth. This was my first speech in my life. And the speech which saved my life. I said to him, officer, commander, I didn't know to say the name Buttenschläger. I must correct you. You made a mistake saying that we are not useful, that we are unproductive. I will tell you, and he looked at me with big eyes, brutal as he was, but he was not a shock, but surprised. A child was speaking to him, and I spoke Polish, and that Rosenzweig, word by word, translated him, standing next to him in German. What means that I spoke wrong. We come from Piotrków Trybunalski. This is the city I was born when my father was the rabbi of the city. In that city we were in the ghetto. By the way, historically, the first ghetto in Poland was in Piotrków, in our city. Why? Don't ask me. The German knows the secret. The first ghetto before Warsaw, before all the others. That's how it happened. In the ghetto, I was a year working in the factory of glass called Huta Hortensia. You're not from Piotrków, you don't know this.
No, not too far from it. No.
Huta, Cara Huta Hortensia. What was my work? They create glass blowing near the oven. The workers, Yidden, worked almost naked of the heat at the oven, at the flames, 12 hours. And they could be dry and they could die. So there was a carriage. On that carriage there were 60 bottles. Out of the ovens there was a Beres. Stone. Beres.
Water.
What I know? Beres.
Faucet.
Sink.
Tap. The tap. The tap for the water.
The top. I had to push the carriage to the top of the water. Outside was freezing, sometimes 20 degrees below zero. Freezing, Poland, winter, snow, I don't speak about snow, meters of snow, higher than me. And I had to fill the 60 bottles, water, freezing there. And when the bottles were full with water, to put them on the carriage in a special organization, and then to push the carriage into the factory and to make a circle from one worker to the other, to each of them to offer a bottle of water, and they drink the water. Until I finished all the 60 bottles, I went back to take the empty bottles from the workers, to put them back on my carriage. When I entered to collect the 60 empty bottles, went straight to that tap outside to full another time, 12 hours, from 6 to 6. And I made it almost a year. And I was younger a year. I said, this was my speech. I was 6.5. Really, I don't believe it today, but it is a matter of a fact. From 6.5 to 7.5, I worked with the pushing the water, and from freezing to ovens, from ovens to freezing. That's how I got my rheumatism. No wonder. So how can you say that we are unuseful, that we cannot work unproductive? Rosenzweig said, the Jew, I think Rosenzweig, but there is no factory of glass here in Czestochowa. I said, you can give me, and I will try to shine the boots, because the Germans were very, very pedant, and they used tall boots, and it was snowing. We arrived there in November. As you said, exactly. November, a week ago, last week, November in Poland, I can shine the boots. After my speech, he called Rosenzweig to his office. My brother, Naftali, 11 years older, who became later the Consul General of Israel in New York, Ambassador Naftali Lau Lavi, from 81 to 85. Our mother gave him in the ghetto, before we separated, 2 diamonds. That's what she had. One she tailored inside of his coat, and one a dentist in Piotrkov put in between his teeth to get it out. He was bleeding. He gave a diamond, one of the 2. So in addition to my brilliant speech, the diamond helped also a little bit. And Battenschläger left us alive till the Russian aircraft came closer and closer, and they pushed us to the train station, walking a long way. Women on one side with children, men on the other side. They went all to Bergen-Belsen or to Ravensbrück, I don't know, and we were on our way to Germany, Buchenwald. This was the speech you remember. The worst written. How did you arrive to Chicago? You had relatives here?
United States Organization.
Yeah.
The rabbi
wanted to know how I arrived in Chicago and that I should tell you. And when the rabbi asks you to tell you something, you do it. I lived in Vienna, Austria, with my sister who saved me. My name was Zhezhnyk, as I mentioned. And the United States Organization for Rehabilitation of European Children, partially organized by Mrs. Roosevelt. But, and then I went to New York on a ship called the Ernie Pyle. We went to Bremerhaven. Did you go to Bremerhaven? No. And then we ended up here. But my sister said something which I didn't remember, that I was supposed to go to Israel and missed the ship and ended up here. Just think, you could have been chief rabbi and I might have been president. All two little boys from Czestochowa. Instead, you are the chairman of Yad Vashem and I am the, what am I? Oh, I'm the president emeritus of this. So we are spreading the news.
Let's let everyone meet the rabbi.
A few months ago, I was visiting for a weekend like this in Chicago, in Seattle. And I knew exactly my program, where I am going, where to speak, and how many times. It started in a nursing home. I arrived to Seattle Friday morning from Tel Aviv via New York. We arrived there early morning because it's 10 hours difference from Tel Aviv. It's earlier, it's 10 hours to the west coast of the United States. Seattle is close to Vancouver already, to Canada. And first time in my life, it was a few months ago. I will never forget. I started from the airport straight to a nursing home because there was there a lady, I knew before I arrived, she's expecting me. A lady who was a nurse of the American Army, the division of General Patton, which liberated Buchenwald. She was a nurse, a voluntary nurse in the American troops. And she took care of my brother, who suffered of a typhus. And 3 days and nights he was not in this world anymore. They wanted to cover him with a sheet. They had to put ice on his body to take down the high temperature he suffered. She did it. And I didn't know that 67 years this lady is following my career in Israel, the child of Buchenwald. I didn't know she existed. All of a sudden, in the nursing home, she has a magazine, a local newspaper of Seattle. Chief Rabbi Lau comes for a weekend to Seattle and will be a guest of the Jewish community, this shul, that shul, a Turkish shul, Sfaradim, because Sfaradim, Syrian, there's a Haleb. So she applied to the, and what nursing home she is? She's not Jewish. The nursing home is a Jewish one. But because she is alone, she never married, the Jewish community pays for her existence in that Jewish nursing home. Because we own her. She saved the lives of Jewish survivors in the quarantena, in a clinic, a temporary clinic in Buchenwald. So the Jewish community of Seattle, I salute them. They keep her a year. She must be 90, some, over 90, almost 100. No children, nothing. And they keep her. she told the owner that she wants to meet, but she cannot walk. Even on a wheelchair, it's very difficult to move her. If I agree to come to visit her. They told me a letter, they sent me a letter, the nursing home, telling me the whole story, that there is an old lady who served by General Patton as a nurse. She remembers she took care of my brother. If I am ready to meet with her, the first step I do in Seattle, I'm going to meet with her. From that meeting, it was a very touching meeting. She brought an album of pictures from those times, black and white pictures, of course, small pictures. And from there, I went to a very small, not like this, Museum of Holocaust in Seattle. One room. It's more, I would say, a library. A library, a room. It's like a shop. I came in, an old man, white hair, very handsome guy, waiting for me at the door with all the medals of Second World War, a veteran. Shook my hand and had tears in his eyes, said, "Chief Rabbi, my name is Leo Hymes. I was a commander in the troops of General Patton, one of the liberators of your concentration camp in Buchenwald. Please, Chief Rabbi, before I die, I ask from you forgiveness for being so late." I go to work, my mother. Then I had tears in my eyes. This old gentleman, a commander of the American Army, was waiting, don't know how long, to ask forgiveness for being so late. April 11, 1945. After we entered in and we saw the situation of the survivors, of the dead, since then, I cannot sleep one night without asking myself, why didn't we arrive earlier? But Leo, you are a great man. If 67 years, all your dreams every night belong to Buchenwald, and you feel guilty, it's not your fault. You were not Franklin Delano Roosevelt. You didn't make the decisions. You were not even Dwight Eisenhower. So I admire your feelings, your emotions, and I bless you. God will bless you with good health and long life. And he cried. What a story.
We know that there is great excitement at the opportunity to meet Rabbi Lau this evening. This museum, Rabbi, opened just 3 years ago. It was the vision of people like our dear Sam Harris and so many others, and it grew out of a small room like that center you visited in Seattle. And we understand that you have been to Chicago and to Skokie before,
Yeah.
and that you even had a hand in conferring a special blessing upon the first
Parade.
version of this hallowed institution.
Excuse me, but I have an honorary citizenship of Skokie. That's why I don't pay tax here.
You may not be alone in not paying taxes. We'll see. It is our great privilege and honor to share with you tonight what your blessing begot. The official catalog of the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center. We learned a great deal and continue to learn each and every day from Yad Vashem, the very first and the most extraordinary institution of memory and hope in the world. And we thank you so very much for being with us tonight. Please. It's not for me to give.
Stand.
Open.
Yes, it's okay.
Let's open. This is your booklet? Yeah? Your memories?
Sort of a little bit, that's for young children.
Manners.
And Czestochowa's in there.
Yeah?
The
Manners.
Bible father's name is in there.
But when you receive a gift, you have to open it immediately to show that you appreciate it, not just to put it inside. So let me open. Thank you. That's the guy.
It's me, I'm an
Same
orphan
color.
right after the war.
Yes.
He's a rather, yes.
And your family.
No, that's not my family, that's my sister. And those are other kids that were in orphanage with me.
Sammy.